This is our second mini lecture for the first module. This one is going to focus on understanding productive resources, which are going to be a factor whether you're looking at this from a micro or a macro or a survey perspective. Economic goods are goods and services. When we use the word goods, we typically mean tangible items. Services are things that are performed for you. That a consumer must pay to obtain. They're also called scarce goods. So if you have something that has an economic value to having more of, it's going to be a good. For example, food is a good because people are willing to pay to have more of it. Now, are all foods equally good to all people? Absolutely not. People have heterogeneous preferences. But economic goods are defined by things that people are going to pay to have more of. Bads, goods or services that a consumer must pay to have fewer of or to get rid of. This is not a joke, this is a term that we use. So, classic example of an economic bad would be pollution. More carbon in the atmosphere is something that we have to pay to clean up. Also, a classic example of an economic bad, jokes told by economics professors. Free goods are goods or services that a consumer can obtain for free because they're abundant relative to the demand. Think air right now. And productive resources are the inputs used in the production of goods and services to make a profit. Land, capital, labor, and entrepreneurship. You'll also hear these called factors of production. The four factors of production are land, capital, labor, and entrepreneurship. Land is any natural resource, but also the stuff that comes from the land, including plants. So I worked at a winery for a while when I was in grad school. The land was not just the soil, and literally the guy who ran it, he was an engineer. He had soil shipped in from the region of France that he wanted to imitate the wines from. So that land, that was that was a very productive resource. Very expensive. He's out of business now because he made poor business decisions. I can't imagine what an example of such a poor business decision would be. Anyway, but also the grapevines themselves were part of the land in terms of our productive resources. Capital, economic capital, is anything manufactured in order to be used in the production of goods and services, right? So this means money, although that's financial capital, and economic capital are two different things. Examples of economic capital usually would be machinery. So on the winery, the trucks and tractors we drove around to carry grapes back to the press, and the press itself, the machine we used to press wine, that was our economic capital. Labor is any human service, physical or intellectual, also referred to as human capital. We'll talk about that term on the next slide. Um, Usually the distinction between labor and human capital is that labor is unskilled and human capital refers to your specialized skills or knowledge. Um, but often human capital is used as a factor to augment labor in economic models. So that's a distinction without a difference at this level of the course. And finally, entrepreneurship, which comes from French words meaning go-between. This is the ability of somebody to recognize an opportunity for profit and accept risk. The entrepreneur is somebody who finds two people who need to be connected, somebody who wants to sell, somebody who wants to buy, and he goes between them. He takes the risk and he makes the profit. Human capital, it refers to specialized skills or knowledge. You are developing your human capital right now by taking this course. Economists like to talk about it like it's synonymous with education because it's easy to measure that, but it is not. Uh, there are a lot of people who develop job-specific human capital. For example, the guy who works on my car, He may not have a degree, although a lot of people who work on cars come through my Eco 101 class, but he does have a lot of specialized skills and knowledge. And going back to the previous mini lecture, it's cheap for him to look at my car, but he charges me for it, right? So he's doing what's easy for him in order for me to give him money so he can buy the stuff that is difficult for him to get. So, quick review: what are productive resources? Think land, labor, economic capital, entrepreneurship. They're used to produce goods and services that are sold to people.